And yesterday I slept until like, I like rolled over by like 10:30. That's like creepy. Yeah. I don't know, I might work on a lot of the homework we have tonight. Before the week's up, it's Saturday. I literally just go there. It's so good. It is really good. That's our gap. You guys like, but still, yeah. But yeah, we're all.
And Claire, we're going to take 2 of these filters, okay? So we can rotate them. Claire, Alex is here. I haven't. Oh, that's got to be great.
I think in the spring they have like all these different chalk artists come and they do all this different chalk art on the
Wonderful.
sidewalk in Easton. Now? No, it's in like this spring. Oh, okay.
Okay, we've got 12:30. Why don't we get started? Good afternoon, S&P. That's pretty good. Who's ready for a weekend? Yeah? Okay. It's been a long week, so congratulations on making it through. We're almost there. Just a couple of reminders about where we're going for the next couple of sessions. I'll do this for the second to last time. We'll show you about Exam 3. This will be on Wednesday. Right? We've gone over this several times already. Format the same as always. Here's the content with a focus on TED Ed. It could also be the case that we'll ask you to think about integrating the ideas that you've written about in your power and justice-related writings. Okay, it might be the case that you're handed some kind of an abstract and you're asked to apply your principles to that abstract. Okay, and here's some tips on how to practice. So by now I think you're old pros, and we'll have this one on Wednesday and then one more for the semester before we get to our final exam. As we are inching our way toward Exam 3 on Wednesday, we also have one more TED Ed to do for Monday, and this one's going to be just a little bit different. Again, it's not going to have a video like the one that you had for today, or it has only a superficial video that says, please take a look at the article. And the article is available by this click out here on the Blackboard page. It will take you to the journal called Science, a very prestigious journal, and this article is written by researchers at MIT who have done some physiological recordings to try to tell us about the biological basis of visual attention. I think you'll find that to be really interesting. And the TED Ed questions are ready for you to go. You might have to click through a couple of licensing kinds of things as you're in Blackboard. It will say, are you sure you want to add an exception or something like that, but I'm sure you can get out there. And you'll be able to read this, and I think you'll find it to be quite interesting. We'll have a good conversation about the TED Ed questions there. Okay? All right, so that's where we're going for the next couple of sessions. We wanted to pick up and have further conversation today about depth perception. That's our topic for the week. And just as a reminder, we've talked a lot about binocular disparity recently, but I wanted to also make sure people were familiar with some of these artistic drawings that exemplify 3D chalk art. How many people have seen this kind of thing before, right? So, I mean, they're really using just tremendous amounts of clues here that are all monocular cues. And I'm going to shrink that down for just a little bit. And, of course, you can do this with just one eye, right? You wouldn't need to have any kind of free fusing. This is all available inside of one eye. Very, very compelling. There are many people walking around our campus who are going to not be able to do stereoscopic fusing of any variety, but they would have no trouble seeing depth in these pictures. I just find them to be really very interesting. And every once in a while, they'll show you maybe 2 pictures, and you can see what it looks like from the appropriate angle. And then also, once you're off to the side a little bit, you can see that these pictures are really quite distorted. Oops. See if we can grab a couple of these. Okay? And it really looks like, there's a hole there. These are absolutely terrific. Why don't we see if we can have some folks name a couple of monocular depth cubes? Can we just throw out a couple of them by name? We haven't done that in a while. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Okay, a texture gradient, right? That's one of Gibson's, one of the ones that's regularly attributed to Gibson. He really takes advantage of that. Meg's got one, and then we'll go with Zach. Sorry? Occlusion, right? Very powerful, right? I'm now occluding the screen, and that can also be dynamic. Did you have a different one, or was that yours?
I was going to say that,
okay. Elevation, right? Okay, so lots of different clues that we have. So you'd probably be just fine walking around with only monocular cues to depth. You'd probably do just fine. There might be a couple of tasks where stereopsis would have helped you, but really, really powerful stuff. Okay, we have a lot of demos to do today, and so I think it's going to be fun. Some of my favorite demos of the semester happen today. So why don't we jump right in and begin working with the Pulfrich effect. Okay, and I'll get my wiffle ball going, as you probably saw in the video. So let's start out with this and make sure everybody's in the right orientation. Can you grab one of your filters and we'll hold it vertically? Okay? And let's see, probably the best way to do it is to grab this in our left hand. You will need 2 of these, so please make sure that you've got 2 of them. Does anybody need 2? And I think we've got these that are polarized and not smoked. Okay, in our left hand, and excuse my back, I'll put my left hand, I'll get into your orientation so you can see that this is the left side, the window side. And let's cross over and cover our right eye. Okay, so 2 eyes are open. This is a binocular trick. Okay, so we need 2 eyes open, but 1 eye is being filtered. Fewer photons are entering our right eye. Okay, then now that we have our right hand free, that's over here by the door side of the room, let's now put that in front and just begin to rotate that slightly in front of our other eye. And hopefully we've got, if you go far enough, you can get an attenuation of the total amount of light. How many people are getting that attenuation? Is that working? Okay. So we won't need to do the attenuation just yet, but we'll do that in a few minutes. Okay. I have a whole bunch of wiffle balls, and I'm going to try to use the edge of this table. I'll use the edge nearest me as my guide. I'm going to try to keep this entirely planar. Okay. So if you'll put your filters down just for the moment. Okay. I'm going to get this going. And I hope you'll agree that this is just planar motion. What I mean by that is, it's as if it's moving in the picture plane. It's not coming toward you like that. Right? It's all in just this plane. I'm trying to line it up with the back of this table as best I can. Okay. All right. Now, can you, just as we did a moment ago, can you cover your right eye, please? And we'll take a moment. 2 eyes have to be open. There's a tendency to want to close 1 eye. And let's just do 1 filter at a time first, okay? Just so, we'll keep that going. Folks who are on that side might need to move over this way. We'll see how we're doing. Okay, so I'm keeping this in the plane, and we'll let you tell me if you're getting something other than planar motion here. Okay, how many people are getting something other than planar motion? 2 eyes have to be open, okay? Melanie's got something. Melanie, what are you seeing?
Sort of when it moves over toward the right, it sort of feels like it comes forward.
Okay. So if you're getting some kind of 3D perception here with 2 eyes open, can you wave your hand in the air mimicking the motion? So maybe everybody's going to be waving in a counterclockwise manner or a clockwise manner, right? So some folks are just having to go back and forth, but some people are also showing, we wanted to rotate so that it's coming toward you, then away from you, right? Okay? So let's do it this way. As the ball is swinging toward the window, is it far from you or is it near? Swing toward the window. Far? Okay. Let's do it this way too. Let's say that we are going to turn that clock sideways in this room, and we're going to put me at 12 o'clock. Okay. We're going to put Sarah at 6 o'clock, right? And we'll say that this way. You'll bear with me. We'll have to go around this way. So here's 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So this is going to be clockwise, and this is going to be counterclockwise. Okay, this is clockwise, right? Which way is it going, clockwise or counterclockwise? Counterclockwise. How many people are getting that? Okay, it's going counterclockwise. Okay, now if you will, will you all please switch eyes? 2 eyes still open, 1 filter only, but switch eyes to your other eye. And I'm going to keep it planar. Okay? Clockwise or counterclockwise? Clockwise, okay. A moment ago was counterclockwise, okay? Why don't we have, let's see if we can do it this way. Maybe you think I'm putting a trick here. I'm actually putting some motion that's either clockwise or counterclockwise here. So why don't we do it this way? Folks who are here and over, can you cover your other eye? This group stay just as you are. Okay, so what I mean is filter your other eye. So this group is going to be filtering their right eye. This group over here, the right eye, and this group filtering your left eye. Okay? Right eye people, what direction are you seeing, clockwise or counterclockwise? Okay? And we have left eye people? All right, so you can see it's not me, right? This direction difference is in your head. It's not out here in the physical world. Your head is generating this illusion of depth. And so I can't simultaneously be swinging it both clockwise and counterclockwise. So we'll let you do this. I'll keep swinging it. And at your leisure, keep 2 eyes open and just filter either eye, one or the other. Move it back and forth as you need to. 2 eyes always open. This is a binocular trick, right? 1 eye is always filtered. And you'll be able to see that you can make this thing go back and forth to clockwise or counterclockwise in a manner that depends entirely on which eye is being filtered. How are we doing over here? Is it working on this side? Yeah, okay. Okay? That's all in your head. This is your visual cortical cells doing this for you. This is not out here in the real world. So talking about psychophysics, the physical motion is always planar. The psychological motion is always rotational. And the direction of rotation depends entirely on which eye is filtered. How many people find this to be weird? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, the weirdness hasn't stopped. It hasn't completely finished yet. So let's do this. Now that you're all good at rotating this, let's now get back into position. Why don't we filter our right eye? 2 eyes are ready to go. And then when you're set, introduce the second filter. Okay? And then crank it up, crank it back down, remove the second filter, but always keep 1 eye filtered. Why don't we always keep our right eye filtered? I think we said that was counterclockwise motion. Okay? So remember that 2 eyes have to be open. Try to make sure that 2 eyes are always viewing this thing. There's a tendency to people want to maybe close 1 eye, or if you're not careful with how you're arranging your filters, one of the filters might be blocking your eye. Okay, so you have to be seeing this thing with 2 eyes to binocularly drive cells in your visual cortex. Okay, and if rotating it is too much, you can just put the second one in front, and then pull the second one away. Okay, this is a little bit harder to do. Okay, and then you can put the second one in front again and pull it away and see what happens when you're adding now greater filtration. A couple of people are saying, whoa. Okay, and what's really cool is you can dial up the filtration as you rotate your filters, and you can dial it back. You can pull one of them away. At some point, you might dial it so strongly that you actually get no light in your right eye, and then that won't work. Some people are smiling like they're seeing something weird. Anybody want to tell me what's going on as you add more filtration and get less light into your filtered right eye? It's coming right at you? Okay, right? Okay. It's like it's coming right at you, right? So the more you filter that 1 eye, the greater the depth is. How many people are getting that psychological experience? Okay, all the while the physical motion is planar. The psychological motion is rotational. Okay, and all we did was change which eye was filtered. That changed the direction, and then for a given eye, we can change how much we've got going on there, right? And that changes the magnitude. Sometimes it's kind of coming toward you and away from you, but then sometimes it's really coming at you and really moving away. So you can vary both the magnitude and the direction of this. Meg's got something. I hope not. It really shouldn't, but I can imagine that sometimes when you do this long enough, it's frustrating, right? But there's nothing about that motion that should be headache-inducing. Okay? All right, who's okay with all of that? Yeah? I have never done this before, but I thought we'd just have some Pulfrich madness in the room. So what I did was I brought in way too many wiffle balls, and I thought I'd try to turn you all into Pulfrich specialists. So I've got I think we have at least one for every 2 of you. So can we have one of you be the Pulfrich ball swinger, and your partner will be the person who's looking at the Pulfrich again, and we'll just see if you can trade off. So I'll start throwing these around. All right. Okay? And swing your partner, right? That's what we're going to do here. Claudio, we're going to do the long shot here. Ready? No. Okay, Tony, here we go. Whoa. I nailed a student one time on a different, almost got in trouble with the provost. Here we go, Sibel. All right, all right. All right, maybe need one more back there, maybe two more back there. Okay, let's go to whoever can grab this without me hitting the, all right, there we go. A little flip over. Okay, can you find a partner and somebody swing, oh, stand up. You can stand up and move chairs around, okay? One of you be the swinger, one of you be the Pulfrich watcher. You can change eyes. We'll make sure everybody can do this. I've got one or two more if somebody needs one. If we have a trio, you can work that out. Find a partner. Find a partner. Is anybody okay? Okay, that's all right too. If we have too many balls in circulation, let's bring those back and grab your glasses. Maybe the two of you could be a pair, right? There you go. Remember, two eyes have to be open. It's a binocular trick. Two eyes have to be open. Good game. Two eyes have to be open. Make sure two eyes are on the ball. Don't let your filter screw up your view. Okay. Two eyes have to be on the ball. Take a couple of minutes to get this right. Yeah, you can switch with your partner, right? So somebody else swing, somebody else be the viewer.
Do you want to? Let's see. Oh, man.
Oh, that's crazy. So if you're already, yeah, right. And what's interesting is now can you swing it around the other way? You can make it go counterclockwise now, right? Now it's probably going to be back to planar. Right? So you can actually make the illusion go away if it's going the wrong way.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I have to put it back to I took two. She just got Pulfrich.
She got Pulfrich. All right. You've been Pulfrich. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and I think we're done with those. Let's take one more minute, and then we'll come back as a group. You can switch if you haven't already switched. All right, thank you all. Thank you all. So what I hope you will do over the Thanksgiving break is I hope you will find a young one. It could be a younger sibling. It could be a younger, maybe you've got younger cousins. Maybe you have nieces or nephews if you have older siblings who have children. They get a kick out of this. There's nothing special about this particular glass. Anytime you attenuate one eye for any reason and something that's swinging in front of you, you will get a Pulfrich effect. Has anybody been to the Exploratorium in San Francisco? Exploratorium, they've occasionally had rooms that are Pulfrich rooms, and you walk in and they've got pendulums swinging from almost every part of the ceiling, and they have pendulums on the floor, and you just walk in and they have these things lying around, and you just look around the room and everything is moving in a planar manner, but it's going in and out. Really a lot of fun, So you can change the direction and magnitude with these things. Hope you can share it with some young ones. We do this all the time at the works. The nerds go over it. We go to the works and we show this to young children, and they seem to respond. It's for kids of all ages. Right? Okay, so who could begin to tell us why that works? We know that filtering one eye gives us this illusion. Do you want to start us out, Alex?
So the filtering one eye, especially using two filters, severely lowers the intensity of the stimuli that is received.
Okay.
And so it slows the, or I guess, the amount of neurotransmitters. So
Yeah.
you said in the video, but our eye starts reporting yesterday's news.
Starts reporting yesterday's news. Okay, all right. So you took us most of the way there. Can we all draw in the air that relationship between the intensity of the stimulus and the latency? How did that? Remember, we had a graph that. Wow, look at this. This is wonderful. Everybody's drawing it in the air. So we'll just call that one up. You have the regular Pulfrich. It's this guy, and you just drew that perfectly. Okay, so latency. So briefer times are better. This is kind of like golf or running times, right? So we're looking for faster latencies. And as the stimulus gets more intense, right, we're getting a faster response in the relay that goes from your retina back here. Right, the speed of light never changes, but the speed of the relay, okay, the action potential's conductance velocity, as it's sometimes called, will be slowed from here to here, and then that does screw things up in, I think, fairly interesting ways. Anybody want to tell us what the deal was with the bathtub? Okay, Madison, what?
I remember it in relation to the photosynthetic.
Great. Okay, let's call it up. And what do you remember about that?
It would be sort of an analogy when there's fewer faucets, the neurotransmitters being released.
Okay.
And then when there's more faucets, it's called the faster.
Yeah.
As there would be more neurotransmitters helping or leading to the neuron.
Okay, real good, right? So we can think about, having a relatively strong response to a strong stimulus, or a weaker response to a weaker stimulus, and that's going to change the rate at which any one of these neurons reaches its spiking potential, right? So remember from Intro to Psych, we did talk about this millivolt measurement that we could make, and we can say once a neuron reaches its own threshold, it's going to begin firing. We can make that happen faster or slower, and just by something as simple as this. Right, we're actually slowing the total amount of light or we're reducing the total amount of light, and that will slow then the transmission from the retina all the way on back. Okay, all right. So that part is really good. Let's think about this for a moment. Okay? Let's think about this. I'll turn down one of the lights, and I wonder if somebody can begin to walk us through some of the details here. We've gotten a really good start on this. We know that we have a slowed neural transmission. Meg's going to give it a try. Okay.
When we filter the right eye because there's a lower level of luminance, and that's like said before, we have the transmission is slowed, and this delay causes like yesterday's news because we move our right.
Watch her hand. She's doing it. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay,
uncrossed.
Okay, it's uncrossed, right? So we know all about crossed and uncrossed disparities from our earlier bit, right? So what should be happening is actually you're fixating, and it was really fun for me to watch everybody's eyes, especially when you were doing it in partners. I was watching your eyes go back and forth. So you had two eyes right on this thing, right? So the retinal information is right here, but from the cortical cell's perspective, it's getting relatively immediate information from the left eye and yesterday's news from the right eye because we've slowed the transmission. So at a particular point in time, the cortical cell is receiving this input from the left eye, that input from the right eye, and those are uncrossed disparities, given that at this particular instant, the ball is moving from the door side over to the window side. Yeah? People okay with that? Did that work? Yeah? Yes, please.
So the information is just for clarification.
Yeah.
The information is coming to both eyes at the same time.
That's exactly right.
How far or how long it takes to get.
That's right. That's right. So right now, everybody's viewing me without any filtration. So what's going on now is that a cell back here in your primary visual cortex is receiving left eye information and right eye information at exactly the same time, okay, as it should. But if we have now a moving object, it would still be receiving it at the same time until we do this trick where we put the filter in front, okay? And now what happens is left eye is same as always, gets information, and from this cell's perspective, it's getting an older report, right? It's getting a delayed report. Please go ahead.
And so the delayed report, that makes it look like it's kind of going around in a circle?
Right. So and why is that? So we have to go back to Meg had the gesticulation just right. So if we didn't have any filter, I'd have my left hand on position 4, which is my left eye, right? And I'd have my right hand on position 4. Okay. But because this hand is delayed, or this eye's view is delayed, it's giving me information that was happening, if you will, 1 millisecond earlier, 2 milliseconds earlier, or something like that. And 2 milliseconds earlier, that ball wasn't over there, it was over here. So the right eye is reporting this position, The left eye is reporting this position at this instance of the cortical cell. Physically, the ball is right here. The left eye's got it right. The right eye is delayed. Okay? And that's a rightward displacement in the right eye's view. Then I asked you to put on a second filter and begin rotating that. Right? So same eye is filtered, crank up the level of filtration, and we slowed it down even further. So now we get the day before yesterday's news, okay? And now we have an even larger uncrossed disparity. And I think Gabby's phrase was something like, that thing's coming right at me. Okay, right? Okay? So we can alter how much filtering we're doing, but as long as we're filtering just that right eye for this particular trajectory, and for the moment it's moving to your left, okay, it's looking like it's further away. Okay? Tawny's got something.
Can you go over why, like, your right eye is like it's going counterclockwise and
Good.
left eye's going clockwise?
Yeah, good. Okay, so we're part of the way there. Okay, so what's going on now is this thing is moving from the door over to the window. That's I apologize for keeping my back to you. That's going leftward. Okay, I just want to stay in the same orientation because that's leftward. And as it's going left, it's further away than it should be. Is that working for you? Okay, that's half the story. The other half of the story is just now this ball has swung over to this side, and now it's going to go back the other way. There it goes. Now the ball is going toward your right. Okay, toward the door. Okay, we still have the right eye covered. Okay. And let's just take position 5, just to show you there's something special about position 4. And what's happening now is this eye is still delayed, but because the ball is going that way, an older report would be backward in its trajectory. Okay? So now I've got a cross disparity. Okay? So it's going like this. It's going, as your right eye is covered, it's going far, near, far, near, far, near. Is this clockwise or counterclockwise? Counterclockwise? Does that work for you? Right? Okay? Yep. And then when we switch eyes, we get the opposite pattern. Does that work for us? Because what was crossed a moment ago is now uncrossed, and what was uncrossed is crossed. Okay? Yeah? Please.
Okay. Wait, so is one eye seeing a cross disparity and the other seeing an uncrossed?
I would say it this way. We have to think about, in this case, we've got a crossed disparity, right? So it's going to look nearer to us. I wouldn't say that one eye's view is crossed. I would say that together they are, there's a crossing that goes on. So we have, if you will, a rightward, in this case, I'm sorry, a leftward displacement in your right eye's view. And that's what we mean by crossed. And when that's the case, when we take something that was typically in your right eye's view and we move it leftward, we're crossing over. And when your cortex sees that or gets that kind of information, this cell is binocularly driven. When it's getting crossed information, it gives you the percept that something is nearer than where you're fixating. Yeah. Okay? Okay. All right. That's pretty cool, right? I mean, I think it's very elegant. These, we get a stack of these, like 100 of them for like $20. So for really, really low budget, you can learn a lot about what's going on inside of your cortex. There was a couple of other questions. Madison had one.
Just to go back to the analogy.
Right.
Does the neuron not fire until its threshold, or can it fire before?
So the neuron will fire when it reaches a threshold. That's what threshold means in this case, right? So it's going to reach some, but we have different neurons with different levels of sensitivity, different firing thresholds. Okay, so some of them are going to fire even at very, very low levels of light, and this is how you're able to see in the dark. Others will not begin firing until there's substantially more light. And if we had more time in the course, I would love to talk a little bit about something that we call gain control. Gain control is a way that a system changes its sensitivity so it can operate over huge amounts of light. You've probably been in a dark movie theater, and after a couple of minutes, you can see fairly well. But as soon as the lights go down, you're not seeing very well. The system has to change its level of sensitivity. We have neurons that are sensitive to very, very low levels of light, others that need a little bit more light, a little bit more light. At some point, you get all neurons firing. Okay. So this can be enormously confusing, right? And we separate it over a few days. So we first learn what is a cross disparity, what is an uncrossed disparity. And then we see a case where, remember, you're always fixating right in this plane. You're at zero retinal disparity, right? The disparities that we're creating are just disparities that are created at the level of the cortex. Right? And we're creating this at the level of the cortex because we're fooling the cortical cell into thinking that your right eye is seeing this and your left eye is seeing that. Really, both eyes are seeing this one, but the cortical cell is getting an older report. Okay? So this is how the cortical cell would have responded had this thing really been over here in the right eye's view. So there's a lot there, and that is confusing. How people think they've got that? Yeah. Okay, pretty cool. A couple of other ideas. I'll see if I can find it real quick. I did want to see if I can go onto YouTube, and you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to look for static. Like, when you put a television here, oh, look, static. Oh, boy. Wow. Do I love static? I'm so happy to have static. Let's allow the static. Let me turn that down. We don't need the noise. We need this. Let's see if we can. Okay. If you still have a filter, I'll get to one if you don't. Can you cover, 2 eyes open, can you cover your right eye? I'm going to see if I get this too. I'm going to sit for a moment. 2 eyes open, looking at this thing. It may or may not work, but after a moment or two, this thing might appear to be as if it isn't just flat static on a screen, but rather that it is a volume. That you're looking into something like an aquarium, right? And there's some depth there. It might take a moment or so. And sometimes once you see some depth, you might even see some rotation, like this thing is kind of moving around. And then you can change eyes, and you might get some rotation in the other direction. I'm not getting a real strong depth. Is anybody getting depth out of this or not really? Yeah? Okay. It's really cool that even in static motion, there's enough there. This is flat as a pancake. It can be perceived as a volume. And sometimes when you see it that way, it swirls a little bit like this. You change eyes, and it swirls in the other direction. Okay? Meg's got it. Yeah. Is anybody getting volume out of this? Yeah? Okay. Really cool. One other tidbit. This now I'm going to get really geeky. But a physicist will tell you that if you put an antenna on top of your house and you brought in a signal into your television, all of us have cable, so we haven't done this in many years. But when I was a kid in the 1970s, we used to have an antenna on the top of our house, and it would pick up electromagnetic energy, and it would bring that down into our television set, right? When you get some static here, there is some electromagnetic energy floating through the universe that is left over from the Big Bang. It's a very, very small fraction, but some of the static that you would see on your television is actually static that is left over from the Big Bang. And so the reason why I think this is cool is that once you've got this filter in front of you, you're seeing some of the leftovers from the Big Bang. You're seeing it in 3D, and you can make this thing now rotate either clockwise or counterclockwise, okay? And you can put it at a depth of your choosing. You're actually seeing the creation of the universe in 3D. Right? Okay? And not only are you seeing it in 3D, but you can figure out how much 3D and the direction of its spin just by doing this. Right? I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And that's the second weirdest thing going on here today. Okay? That's the second weirdest. The weirdest, I think, is this. I'll try to summarize it this way for us. All we did in the Pulfrich effect was we put this filter in front of our right eye. Right? And all that did was change the time. But right there we have a weirdness. We changed the level of photons that Gabby would have measured with our photometer the other day. We were taking some light measurements. We changed the level of photons, and that changed timing. Photons are one thing. They're measured by a photometer. Timing is another thing. It's measured with a watch, or a stopwatch. So a change in photons changed timing. Who thinks that's weird? Yeah? Hold on. A change in timing changed the perceived relative position in the x-plane. So now we slowed down the view to one eye, and that created a mismatch in where something actually is in the x-plane versus where the cortical self thinks it is in the x-plane. So a change in time generated a change in space. Who thinks that's weird? Okay? That was a change in x space. But a change in x space changed your perceived your z space, right, your depth. So we changed the x, which changed for you perceptually the z. Right? So from the top, we changed the photons, which changed the time, which changed the x space, which changed the perceived z space. Who thinks that's weird? Okay? Weirder still, this was found by Professor Pulfrich, who was a person who had only one eye. I don't know how that all got started, and I don't know if that's actually true, but this has been known since about the 1920s, and it was alleged that he had vision really well only in one eye and not in the other. So all of that weirdness in the Pulfrich effect. Absolutely love this. I think it's really, really cool stuff. Questions about the Pulfrich effect before we go on? Okay. All right. So let's go on and talk about some other binocular phenomena. How many people have one of these? You all grab one of these on the way in. I can get you one if you don't have one. And why don't we try a little bit more free fusing? This time let's go to what is labeled as page 3. Does anybody need this? Page 3 is, we've got random dot stereograms there. Okay, so you know how to do this. We'll give you a couple of minutes. So you can put this flat on your desk if you like. You can put your nose all the way down on your index card. If you need to pull up a little bit to try to get these to slide over. Okay. This might be a little bit easier than it was the other day because you are now practiced at this. And if you need to pull things away a little bit, your eyes won't have to work as hard. See if you can get this thing to fuse. Relaxing your eyes, letting your plane of fixation go a little bit past the target being these two stereograms. This is hard to do. How many people got something there? Wow. Okay, I don't usually get that kind of... I usually go about half and half on this one. But you're actually a better free fuser than you were. Free fusing is a motor skill, and you do develop it over just a couple of days of practice, a couple of minutes a day. Okay. I don't want to lead the witness. What are people seeing in there? Go ahead, Meg.
When they fused over, they specific spatial region, a square kind of popped out.
How many people had that? They had a square popping out? Yeah? Okay. All right, pretty cool. Now, what I think is really neat about that is if you look in either eye's view, you don't see a square, right? It's monocularly invisible. A square is a very simple form. We could have seen, of course, the whole thing is a square, but there's this little tiny sub-square that pops out and it comes out at you, right? Okay? And that, of course, isn't there physically, but your brain is creating that, right? So I find that to be fascinating, that your brain can pull out a particular form, but you only get that form perceptually available to you after your brain has gone through its stereoscopic process, its stereopsis process. Right? Pretty cool. And this is a fairly simple image because there's a square, but there could have been something more complicated. And this is akin to how the autostereograms work, the magic eyes. How many people have done magic eyes before? Yeah, there are these books that have patterns like this, and you relax your eyes kind of like you're doing now, and something pops out in 3D. Sometimes really complicated scenes can pop out. Yeah? Okay. Okay. So we've done these stereograms. I think we had a question or two in TED Ed on stereograms and random dot stereograms and how this all works. Let's see if we can get to those. Question 8 or 10. Okay, what about camouflage? Anybody remember, there was a point in the video about this in camouflage. Anybody remember how that went? Okay, thanks, Max.
Are you referring to how they use the military?
Yeah, how did the military, yeah.
I guess in the 1950s, the military supported research to find scientific and hiding.
Yeah.
And they would use helicopters or planes to go over areas where they thought, and then the photographers would take two different pictures, and they would refuse them and be able to see if they were.
Yeah, right, or some other target or something, right? So from way up, you probably couldn't see it monocularly. The tanks would be colored in a way that made them look like the background, but if they're there in 3D, they become very, very salient, right? So pretty neat that they can do this. So there actually is a practical application about this, okay? Something about on some level, though, we can say that these are ecologically invalid stimuli. These wouldn't happen in everyday life. You wouldn't normally have, first, a random dot pattern. That's pretty weird. I think you have another one right next to it, and they're absolutely identical, except there's a small patch that's displaced by just a certain amount. I mean, you wouldn't normally run into that, okay? So why bother with these stimuli? Okay, thanks, Emil. Okay, right. Yeah, they isolate variables, and that gives us some insight into how the system is working, right? And then once we know how the system is working, we might be able to create different kinds of machinery that can maybe take two pictures and reveal something that hadn't been seen. There was also the similarity that we had to the idea of the red and the green coming together and creating that metamer for us, right? So that we can say that we wouldn't have known how to generate yellow up here if we didn't understand how the system worked. Right? So it's really nice, I think, to have stimuli like these. They don't seem very practical, but they can provide great insights by isolating variables. That was very nicely stated by Isabel. Okay, questions on any of that? Random stereograms, pretty cool. Can we turn the page and we'll try to free fuse. We'll go on to our next binocular phenomenon. We've done random stereograms. Same trick, but now we're going to try binocular rivalry. We'll give you a moment to try to free fuse these. And just as a heads up, this might be a little bit disconcerting, is the phrase I use in the video a couple of times. Right? It's now, this would never happen in the real world, right? As I'm looking out, you would never have a this and a that happening at the same retinal position, and only one of those orientations reaching your left eye, only the other orientation reaching your right eye. Right? These are actually fairly hard to describe. A moment ago, you saw a very clear square that popped out, right? It's a little bit hard to describe what you're seeing here. Does anybody want to try to describe what they're seeing? Okay, thanks, Claire.
It almost looks like the images are coming together to be 3D, but then you see like the lines sort of like the ones that are that are facing towards the left are like obvious first, and then they kind of blend back into the background, and then the other ones come out.
Yeah, right. These two stimuli, the left-tilted ones and the right-tilted ones, are rivaling. Right? They're competing with each other in a way for access to your consciousness. Okay? And sometimes the left eye signal is getting in there. Sometimes the right eye signal is getting in there. Okay? But they're competing for your consciousness. And normally this wouldn't be a problem, right? Because when I look out over here, I'm getting an image of Zach in this eye and an almost identical, not identical, almost identical image over here. So those can be synthesized. But now there's really nothing to put together, and it's as if your brain is going back and forth between these two states. Okay? Anybody want to tell us a little bit about how this might inform us of consciousness in a neuroscience lab? Well, how did the video talk about that? Binocular rivalry stimuli in a neuroscience lab. How did that go? Yeah.
They might tell you that your consciousness isn't necessarily capable of holding on to more than one really complicated.
Okay, so maybe we can only really tolerate one or the other at a particular time. Okay, right. How are they doing the measurement in the lab? Yeah, thanks.
They put participants in an fMRI machine, and they have them like wear filters.
Yeah.
They have the individual press, like whether they see like vertical stimuli or
Okay.
horizontal stimuli.
Yeah.
Verticals.
Yeah, right. Why don't we do that now? So I'll give you one more set of filters. These will be red-blue filters. Okay. This, by the way, is a slightly different red-blue filter than what you had the other day. We could just take one and pass it over. You only need one of these. And down and pass them over. And sometimes I have a lot of success with this, and sometimes it kind of bombs on me. And I think it won't matter which one is... here we go. Okay, this is the one we want to project. I'm going to take the lights way down. So this is what you were trying to do a moment ago, right? Okay. So we'll let you look at this maybe for a minute or two. It doesn't matter which side is red, which side is blue. We've got the rivalry going on. Actually, I have to say, today it's looking pretty good. There have been some days when we've had a fainter projection, but I think this is going pretty well. And hopefully this is kind of disturbing to look at. At your leisure, you can flip your glasses up and just take a peek at what's actually on the screen. So here we have red horizontals and blue verticals, right? And then you put those filters on, and one is reaching one eye, one is reaching the other. You also might do this. While your filters are on, you might just close one of your eyes and leave the other one open, and then switch eyes back and forth so you can see what signal is reaching your left eye, what signal is reaching your right eye. You get a feel for that. And then two eyes open as you like, and your brain is trying to make some sense out of something that would never happen in the real world. Your brains and our ancestors' brains did not evolve in anything like this. Right? This was never a kind of stimulus that they would have seen. But we can do this in a psychophysics lab. And as Melanie correctly pointed out, we can have people clicking, I'm seeing vertical, I'm seeing horizontal, and we can look at brain fluctuations. What exactly does the MRI measure
blood oxygen level.
Blood oxygen level, okay, thank you. The bold signal, right? The blood oxygen level dependent signal is what's being measured there. Okay? So pretty cool. One other tidbit that I think you might get a kick out of. A few years back, they wanted to figure out if some of the Buddhist monks who claim that they can meditate really well and control their viscera. Sometimes they say that they can meditate and they can control their heart rate, they can control their breathing rate. Some of them will say that they can maybe get some fluctuation in their temperature just by meditation alone. The question became, can the Buddhist monks look at this kind of a thing and say, okay, I'm going to try to grab, we'll say, the red horizontals and hang on to that image and not allow them to fluctuate. Right? I feel when I am looking at this myself, these things fluctuate without my being able to control it. They kind of come and go as they do. I don't feel like I can control that. The Buddhist monks who were trained in a particular kind of meditation actually were reporting that they were having, for example, really, really long durations of one of these before they flipped over. They tried to do that. They tried to grab one and hold on to it. And they claimed that they were holding on for like a minute and a half for just the red horizontals. What was really cool was their claims were independently corroborated by their bold signal. So they had the Buddhist monks looking at these things in an MRI device, and they weren't pulling our legs. You have to watch that about Buddhist monks. They're always going to pull your leg, right? So they're actually being corroborated by the bold signal. And some of these folks really can have some control over which percept they're going to grab. Most of us don't have that. I thought that was pretty neat. Please.
I was just flipping back and forth, and when the red filters over my right eye, there's no rivalry.
Okay.
And when I flip it around and put the blue filter over my right eye, there's...
Okay. When you flip it around, I think I understand that one. When you say there's no rivalry, can you describe what you see? So.
The red comes through.
Oh, just the red comes through. All right. Okay. And that was that right on red? Is that when you're getting just the red? Okay. So, right. So it might be that you have a, and all of us are a little bit different. We might have a bias that maybe our right eye drives more cortical activity than our left eye does. Many cortical cells are binocularly driven, but they're not necessarily binocularly driven by the same amount. Okay? And this is a concept that we had very briefly mentioned, something called an ocular dominance column. So a particular column of cells in your primary visual cortex might have more innervation from your right eye than from your left eye. And it might be that a particular person is more, if you will, right-eyed. I hate to use that expression, but there it is. Okay, how many people are getting that? They're getting a good rivalry there? Yeah? Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's binocular rivalry. Let's going to take a peek at the time and see if we have, I think we'll have a moment to do, yeah, okay, we have a couple of moments. Why don't we go on to our final bit after binocular rivalry? Why don't we try our motion parallax? This will be our final demo for today. Okay? And we'll see if you remember from the video how we orient ourselves for this. Let me make this really big and give you a target. Okay? So if our target is the M in motion parallax, we'll see if people can orient their hands. I'll try not to. Okay, there goes Melanie. Melanie's got it. Okay, so what did we learn in the video? Good. No hands. Look, Ma, no hands. Okay? So what we'll try to do is we'll make that our target. That's the M. This is wonderful. Everybody in the room is doing this. Let's see if we can close our left eye and right eye is open. So we'll make this a right eye viewing trick. This takes a little bit of practice. Okay? So we're looking at this only with our right eye. Our right thumb is as far out as we can extend it. Our right arm is fully extended, and we've lined it up with the M in motion. Our left thumb is a little bit closer, so we have three things going on. The left thumb is close, right thumb is in the middle, the M is distant. How many people have, yeah, looks like we've all got that. What I'd like you to do is try to keep your one eye focused on your right thumb. Can you all wiggle your right thumb? And only your right thumb. Okay, that's the one that's going to be in the middle of these three. Okay, you're going to keep your eye on that, and then begin to move your head leftward and rightward, leftward and rightward, while you're focusing on that middle thumb. Okay, so move it leftward and rightward, and you should get some differential motion between your near thumb and the very, very distant N in motion. And one of them, well, I'll let you tell me. As you're moving your head back and forth, can somebody begin to describe the differential motion? Okay, thanks, Liz.
The thumb that's near it, who appears to be moving, while the one farther away appears to be standing still.
Relatively, yeah, so you get faster motion for the nearer object. That's really true, okay? So think about the direction of motion.
The nearest is like moving in the opposite direction.
Yeah, right, okay. All right, so we get a directional difference, right? Near things are moving opposite to ourselves, and far things are moving with ourselves, and they're moving more slowly in the distance and faster as they're nearer, okay? So that provides a lot of information, and if you have a loved one, somebody in your family who doesn't have binocular vision, they can pull out a lot of information by doing just a little bit of head motion. They might not even know that they're doing it. Maybe they don't even report that they're doing it, but they've learned to see things in depth by using this monocular depth trick, motion parallax. Okay, we are at 119. Maybe when we come back on Monday, we'll just remind ourselves about the relationship between motion parallax and binocularity, and then we'll spend the entire day talking about the MIT paper on the visual physiology associated with attention. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. We have a lot to put back up here. So I've got wiffle balls over on this side, if you would. We'll try to keep red-green over there and other filters this way. You're welcome to hang on to your sheets if you want, but I would like to get the index cards back if I could. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I will see you Monday. Have a great weekend.